on Zoom. We're going to be starting. Just to recap, the sign in link at the bottom, please sign in so that we can see how many people are joining our meetings so that we can properly supply food and stuff for everyone. And the top link is if you need to download VirtualBox or get access to the Kali ISO. If you haven't downloaded already, don't worry too much about it because I'm going to be talking for a while before we actually go into it. You have time to download and install. If you already use VMware or prefer VMware and have used it already, then go ahead and use VMware. Just the VirtualBox is free and accessible to all for today's meeting. Any questions before I start? To everyone. Oh, if you're gonna DM me on the Zoom call, send it to presenter because my laptop I'm using for various stuff, but for presenter I have like a huge like chat window. And yes, do download the bare metal installer. Yeah, and if you're on Windows, then you download Windows Host VirtualBox. Okay, mic is hot because holding down space was too hard. All right, so quick run through of what we went over last meeting in case you weren't here. We did a quick intro to Swift. We did a workshop overview, and we talked a little about red versus blue. I'm gonna go over that real quick in a couple of minutes just to catch people up to speed or in case you need a recap. And yes, VMware works too if you are used to VMware. So quick recap on Swift. We're Swift, mainly a cybersecurity club. Most of our events are free. You don't really need to be a paid member, but it is appreciated and you do get free stuff with it. T-shirts, stickers, webcam covers. You can enter raffles. You qualify for prizes during CTFs, and there's more. It's $20 a semester or $35 for the year. Yeah, please consider it. Helps us a lot. And then here's a quick run through of the workshop calendar. So Tuesdays are Tuesday meetings from 12 to 1 hours where we just mostly do a talk. And then Fridays are Fridays 6 to 8 where we actually have our workshop. Just as a reminder, September is mostly defense-based. October, we do Hacktober. So our main focus is hacking. And in November, a lot of it is preparation for our red versus blue. Felipe just posted the paid membership link on Zoom. And yeah. Am I doing on time? 15, cool. Okay, so table contents for this today's meeting. I'll be going over 4 various things. Starting is your cyber goal. So a lot of people have heard the term cybersecurity. They think they know what it means, but their idea of it can be skewed, or they know what cybersecurity is, but they have no idea how to start a career in it. To be honest, most people and a lot of us didn't know how to like genuinely get started in cybersecurity until very late or until recently. So if you have no idea, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Next, I'll be going over virtualization. So that'll be using VirtualBox. If you haven't used virtualization before, don't worry about it. I'm gonna go through the entire process of creating a VM today. For step 3. And then step 4, if we have time, is some Linux navigation. There will be post-workshop work that's optional to do, which is just getting used to Linux using Kali. Oh, sorry, not using Bandit to practice. Any questions on today's overview? Just a quick show of hands. How many people have actually used virtualization? So VMware or Okay, about half of you. Cool. Yeah. Like I said, for the other half, don't worry if you haven't. The main goal today is to get you guys ready and prepared for starting using virtualization, starting your cybersecurity careers, and being prepped for the workshops coming in for next week. Also, there might be some pauses here because virtualization is mainly hardware based. So there could be a pause as I had to help someone, configure their BIOS or things like that. But there will be a time for that. I just want to do a basic question. This is open to anyone to just raise their hand or shout out loud. What is the reason for cybersecurity? Anyone want to just take a quick guess what we're defending or why we have cybersecurity? From the internet. So we're defending ourselves from the internet, or yeah, that's good. Yeah, essentially you're protecting yourselves from dangerous people or files and things like that. Our main goal is that we're protecting our data because our data is everywhere now. In the recent years, I've uploaded so much of my personal data online. It's pretty scary. So we're protecting our data. With our data, we're just making sure that our credit card statements, money, name, personal info is safe. So CyberPath. Cool. So quick rundown of cybersecurity, just to make sure everyone knows. It's every tool and action we use to keep ourselves safe. I've all followed the basic CIA triad that a lot of people use here. It isn't just keeping yourself safe, but also make sure that the data you send or data you receive is correct. So that's the integrity part. Another big part of cybersecurity is availability. So not only is it protecting your data, but making sure that's always available. Think of like the big businesses like Google, Amazon, things like that, where if something goes down for even a few minutes, they use millions of dollars. So availability is a big part in cybersecurity because it's not, you can't just take down your services just to do defense. You have to keep them up. I work in a server room, and the amount of times where I wanted to do an update, but had to wait a week or 2 weeks because I had to give a 2-week notice just to tell them, hey, the service is going to down for 5 minutes. It's insane. Availability is a huge part of cybersecurity. And when we do things like RVBs and stuff, you'll notice that you're scored on the availability or the uptime of your processes and services. Oh, you're here too. Everyone said they weren't coming and then they're here. Okay, real quick. So now we know what cybersecurity is. Does anyone know a job or position in cybersecurity? Just name a certain job title. Can anyone name one? Software engineer, right? Do you know what a software engineer for cybersecurity does? Not too sure. Anyone want to take a guess of a name or things like that? Yeah. Data analysis, yes. Do you know that? That's fine. I bring it up because no one knows. Everyone's like, oh, I want to work in cybersecurity. Oh, what position? And then everyone blanks out. And then someone's like, oh, I want to be an analyst. What does an analyst do? I don't know. It's, oh yeah, pen tester. Pen tester is a good one too. I think everyone knows what pen tester is. I'm gonna keep going. So real quick, jobs in cybersecurity. This is just a short list of them. There's many, many more. And like I said, these jobs are everywhere. From the big FANG businesses to government to even what is it? Not jump starts. I'm blanking out on the word. Startups. Yeah. So just a quick list. If anyone's interested in knowing one of these, go ahead and raise your hand and ask. But just go through the list quickly. Security software developer. So essentially, you're creating software that's security based. So when you said software developer, security architects, their job is to. Whoops, I don't have my actual notes here. Access their organization systems for weaknesses. So essentially, they help build environments. Security consultants, they pinpoint vulnerabilities in computer systems, networks, and such, and refer to whoever they need to fix it or fix it themselves. Same thing of analysts, computer forensics analysts pretty much prepare. They investigate e-data and they pretty much prepare it for a legal investigation. So it's pretty much in every field. So if there's something that you're interested in or a certain field you're interested in, there's probably a cybersecurity job for you. And also, since someone's asking in chat, pen tester is you're pretty much a paid hacker. You attack businesses. Once you get in, you write a report of how you got in, and they pay you for that. There's also bug bounties and things like that. Any questions so far, or just gauging audience? No? Cool. Okay. And one more question. Is anyone actively doing something to get better at cybersecurity or improve their skills? Yes. What are you doing? Okay, that's good. Anyone else want to talk about what they're doing right now? Yes. Hack the box is a really good one. Yeah, Michael? Yeah, asking questions. Good, good. Yeah. Yeah, you're at club, you're at Swift. You're doing Cyber Patriot in chat. Cyber Patriot is really good. Thank you for coming. Track me. Okay, cool. You guys have a good idea of what to do. The reason I bring this up is because I feel like a lot of people are goal-based. So if you don't have an active goal that you're pursuing, it's hard to just improve yourself. So that's why I bring this up. If you don't have an active goal, don't worry. Here's some that you could look into. Like I said, it's a broad topic with no single pathway. You can't just go up to someone and like ask for like a single pathway. It's impossible because it depends what field you want to do, how you want to do it, how you go about it, things like that. Some goals, if you don't have any right now that you can look into, are certifications. So your easier ones would be Sec Plus, NEC Plus for cybersecurity and defensive topics like blue teaming. Your OSCP would be for pen testing. Where's Dylan? Dylan has his OCSP. We're very proud of him. Oh. He graduated. We don't care. I'm just kidding. Okay, and then there's also the CISSP. This is not very beginner level, so don't worry about the CISSP. I just put that if you're very advanced. Yes. Next is internships. These are very big, to be honest. Everyone always says that once you get your first internship, the rest are kind of easy. So that is a topic you can always work towards. Trying out for teams. There's CCDC and CPTC that are here. The Collegiate Cyber Defense competition and the Collegiate Penetration Testing competition. If not, there's certain projects that you can always work on. So personal projects, home labs. We have the Cybersecurity Awareness Fair in October. So that's not a Swift thing. That's a school thing. If you're interested in that, you can make a board, like think of like a science fair board and present. And if you win, you get money. I think first is like $1,000, two is $750. And if not, even if you don't win, companies do go out there. So you can try and get an interview off that. And next is competitions, NCAE, RVB, NCL. These are just competitions that are hosted by various companies, RVB by us, NCL by National Cyber League, things like that. How can you try out for CCDC? So unfortunately, CCDC and CPTC tryouts are over. They happen over the summer because of how soon the competition happens. You can try out again next summer. It starts in July, right? Yeah, it usually starts around July, and it'll go out for about 2 to 3 months before we have actual tryouts and things like that. If you're more curious about that, you go ahead and message Gabe on the Discord or ask around in the Discord and we'll give you more info for the next tryouts. Any questions on any of these? No questions? Cool. Real quick, is anyone still downloading stuff? We're not getting started soon, or we still have a wait, but anyone still downloading? Yeah, okay, cool, no problem. Does it say like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 minutes? Okay, cool.
How many of you are with Swift for the first time? Welcome. We're really excited to have you.
Yeah. And also real quick, everyone has a device, right? Because I know one person was asking to borrow a laptop. I made a laptop for you, but he's not here. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm controlling like 3 devices at once, so I get confused which mouse I'm using. Okay, cool. Next is virtualization. So we're gonna talk about virtualization. So real quick, what is virtualization? It's essentially software that allows a device, the host, to run multiple types of operating systems. Essentially, on my laptop, it's a Windows laptop, but I can run Linux operating systems because I use virtualization to run it. Essentially, it takes my hardware resources and just creates a whole new operating system. The reason we use virtualization instead of just get a whole new laptop is one, I don't want to buy a whole new laptop with Linux and stuff, so it's cost effective. It's easy and quick. Once you know what you're doing with virtualization and how to create a VM, it honestly takes you maybe 5-10 minutes to create a new OS. It's very adaptable. You can have multiple VMs open at once if you have the hardware resources, or you can just have one VM, close it, open the next VM. And next, it creates very safe test environments. Some of the things we're doing or will be doing, you don't really want to do on your main system because it can mess up certain settings, or your main system just doesn't have the operating system compatible for it, or you just don't want to put unsafe things on your main system. Some of the things I have done with virtualization and VMs is just put like WannaCry, like ransomware on VMs, and thankfully it didn't affect my actual computer. It just affects the VM. So it's just really good to be safe. Next, we'll talk about software. The main two are VirtualBox and VMware Workstation. There's also Parallels for Mac, I think, if you want to use Windows on a Mac. For today, we'll be doing VirtualBox because it's accessible to everyone. VMware Workstation is accessible to everyone, but I think for Mac users, you have to pay. You need a code. Oh, we have the Fusion? I thought we lost it. Yeah, so we used to have. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, someone mentioned that we have VMware Fusion licenses, but that got taken away from us this school year, actually. So yeah. If you can find a code online, find a code online. I'm gonna mute real quick. I'm gonna be muted for like 5 more seconds. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was just talking about VMware keys with someone. Like I said, if you can find them online, that is very helpful. If not, they're $200 per license. Don't buy for it. Don't buy it. You can probably, get sponsored by someone on GitHub. Okay, I'm gonna go next. Also, VMware is not really compatible with Apple One M1 processors. If you don't know if your Mac is an M1 processor, you can look it up. Or typically, if it's made within the last year or two, it's probably an Apple M1 processor. If it's older than that, then you should be good. Also, someone in Zoom asked how I found WannaCry. Someone gave it to me in a USB. I still have that USB in my house, but I don't know what it looks like. So every time I plug a USB into my computer, I'm just playing USB. Oh no. Yeah, this is for a work environment. This wasn't a fun friend thing. We don't encourage this ourselves. But yeah, but every time I plug a random USB in my house. It's just USB roulette. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, next is a little bit more about how virtualization works. I don't want to go too much into this, but essentially you have your physical hardware. Oh, did you have a question? Oh. You're using Fusion or VirtualBox, sorry, VirtualBox. So you have, if anyone Mac, but use a VirtualBox. So the one I put in the workshop is there. Some people prefer Workstation, so I have to bring it up. I think most people use Workstation if it's accessible to them. But yeah, in the end, they all do the same thing. So you're not really handicapping yourself or anything. Sorry to go back. Yeah. So your physical hardware and your hypervisor. Hypervisor is usually through the software you use, like VirtualBox or VMware. Hypervisor will pretty much use your actual computer or laptop's resources and make VMs out of it. You don't need a super intensive PC for this. It doesn't require like an insane graphics card or anything. It just requires a decent CPU and RAM. RAM mainly being the main thing. For Linux and stuff, you barely use any RAM. Like you can get by with 2 like RAM allocated to the VM. Once you get to Windows, you probably want like at least 4. So if you have like 16 gigabytes of RAM, you're big chilling. If you have 8, you'll get by. If anyone has 4 gigabytes of RAM, Windows might be a problem, but that's why we're doing Linux today. Oh, this is a quick thing. Oh, also what we need to virtualize. Virtualization or hypervisor software. So VMware virtual parallels. An ISO file, which I'll talk about in a bit. And then virtualization turned on in your BIOS. The virtualization turned on thing, I'm gonna talk about too. We might have to take a break for that because to turn virtualization on, you do have to go into your BIOS, and that I will talk about in a bit. So real quick, what the heck's an ISO file? It's just 3 letters I've never seen before. And why does it look like a CD? Pretty much it's a contained optical disk. So the way we used to install operating systems back then was you put a CD in your computer and it installs the operating system, or you buy your computer and it has the operating system installed. CDs were king back then. They still kind of are with ISOs. With an ISO file, we quote unquote mount it onto our software and onto our computer, and then we install the software. So essentially using an ISO file is just like pretending you're installing a CD into your PC. That's the basic gist of it. That's how we use it for ISOs. Essentially, your ISO isn't your software. Your ISO is your file to install an operating system. So you take VMware or VMware Fusion, mount the ISO, you have a VM. That's the basic rundown of it. Only download from trusted sources because, like I said, they can run things. So even though it might be called Kali operating system, that's just the name. You don't know what's in it. So that's why I always say download from trusted sources. If you just Google like Windows ISOs or Linux ISOs, it'll typically be like the first result for it. If you get one off a sketch website, be careful. We've had some scares. Yeah. All right, this is where it's gonna get a little tricky. We had to talk about turning on virtualization. I'm hoping mostly everyone has this turned on already. If not, don't worry about it. But essentially, it's a BIOS setting. So our BIOS is our basic input-output system, and our BIOS is, to use virtualization, we have to turn it on our BIOS. If you have Windows, it's pretty easy to check. If you just do Task Manager, more details, and then click on Performance, CPU virtualization, you can go ahead and see that it's turned on with virtualization enabled in the yellow highlight. I'll give you guys a minute or two just to make sure you guys do it. If you guys need a example, I can do it right now, actually. This is a school computer, so if I pull up any doxing information, that's fine. So yeah, Windows button, task manager, performance, and it'll be here. All right, cool. The school computer has it turned on, so I'm very hopeful everyone has it turned on. The recording we posted in announcements. Just give us a few days to post it. Also, Edgar, since you just joined, I will give you something right now. We're still talking about virtualization and turning it on. If you need to download the files for today's workshop, I'll send it right now. It is HTTPS. Oh, whoops. Okay, cool. Has anyone ran into the problem of not having virtualization turned on? Okay, thank you, Clemens. Oh, and then for Mac, sorry, I have like 3 mouses in front of me. For Mac, I believe the best way I saw was open terminal, applications, utilities terminal, type in this command and you can check there. Is there an easier way, Justin? Okay, I'm just praying it's turned on for everyone. Let's say you're on Zoom and your resolution is turned off. You're gonna have to enter your BIOS. The best way I found to do this was to Google to find out what motherboard you have and look up the settings and how to do it. But typically for Windows, you restart your device, you hit F1, F2, F12, F12, or escape. I just smash all of them because it'll be one of them. And you have to go into your settings, usually in advanced or system config, and turn it on. I'm gonna do like a quick 5-minute break in case someone actually has to do this. Or if you do have to do this on chat, let me know. And I just won't do the 5-minute break. But yeah. I'm gonna do 5 minutes in case people need to do this or wait for people to try it and come back with questions. Like I said, today is very hardware based, so I do have to have time for this.
Hi Zoom. Hi Zoom.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, Zoom chat. We're gonna get started again. Just as a heads up. Whoops, I'm looking for my mouse. If you're still having trouble or have any trouble with virtualization, let me know. And I will try and help you, or someone in chat will try to help you. Hopefully, if you are downloading Virtualbox, hold up, I'm gonna tell Live to be quiet real quick. Okay, I told him to shut up. Okay, anyways, if you're still downloading, let me know. I can try and slow things down for you as you get Virtualbox installed. Hopefully you have it now. If not, let me know, or just follow with us, and you should be able to do it alone after the workshop, or when we post the recording, or just DM me after workshop and I'll do my best to help you. I'm going to continue these slides. Give me a second. Okay, cool. I'm gonna shout real quick, Zoom, so be careful. All right, so moving on. Just some quick lingo, because this confuses a lot of people when I first talk about virtualization, and I cannot stop myself from using different lingos. There's so many ways to describe the guest operating system. So remember, the guest operating system is the guest OS. So let's say I have a Windows PC and I want to run Linux. The Linux I'm running is the guest OS. In case I call it something else, when I say the word virtual machine, VM, image, guest, box, or system, assume I mean guest OS. And this goes with everyone. Everyone at different jobs, different places, just they use different lingos, and it gets really confusing really fast if you don't know. So I'm just doing this slide to let you know. It's like a very, if you know, you know. Okay, next, booting up Kali. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to talk a little bit about it, about Linux and stuff, and then I'm just going to switch to my laptop screen, and I'm going to actually just go through the process, and you guys can follow along. Any questions? If your stuff is still downloading, find a friend, share your laptops with them. So yeah. So before I go through the process of installing Kali, has anyone ever used Linux before? Half the people. Okay. So most of you haven't. Got it. Okay, cool. That's fine. You used Ubuntu. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna talk about Linux real quick, just so everyone knows what it is before. So I'm not just talking about a foreign operating system. So the brief Linux rundown is that Linux is an operating system just like Windows, but they have different pros and cons to it. So operating system, what you don't know is essentially it manages the communication between software and hardware. So Windows is a hardware, Linux is a hardware, sorry, or Debian hardware, things like that. Mac OS X, is operating system. I don't know why I was saying hardware. Sorry. The catchy thing about Linux is that Linux isn't really just one operating system. They have multiple flavors or distributions. I like saying flavors. So yeah. I'm not gonna go too deep into Linux architecture, but if you want to learn more about the Linux architecture and how the operating system works, in 2 weeks we have the Linux workshop with Clements. He's helping someone right now, actually. But yeah, just to go a little bit more on Linux. Today we're gonna be using Kali. So the reason I'm saying we should use Kali is because, one, not many people have used Kali before, and two, it's really good for penetration testing, computer forensics, and security research. So anything defense-wise, Kali is really good at it. The reason Kali is preferred for this type of stuff is because it usually comes pre-installed with like 600 different like quote unquote hacking tools or tools for defense. So that's why people prefer Kali. If you wanted to use a Linux distribution for personal use, so like you wanted to dual boot a system or something, a lot of people prefer Ubuntu and Debian because they're more made for users. Other distributions that you will probably see are like CentOS, Red Hat, and things like that. Those are pretty good for things like servers and stuff. Let me go to the next slide. Sorry. And then quick pros and cons of why you would want to use this operating system that you've never heard before is these. So Linux pros and cons, just to talk about it. Linux is free. Windows, every key is like $100, $5 if you buy it from some sketchy side on eBay. It's open source meaning that there's a team that works together and makes the Linux shell. The Linux shell will be talked about in 2 weeks, and that Linux shell is used to make every other distribution. You always see it around that it's quote unquote more secure, and the reason is most home users have Windows, so most viruses or malware are made for Windows computers for people at home. But Linux is also very popular. Most devices are actually Linux devices, such as your phones and things like that. It's less hardware intensive. So if you have a really old laptop that you barely runs, you can learn how to just get rid of that Windows operating system on your really old laptop, put Linux on it, and it'll probably start working even better. And then now you have a device to play with Linux. So that's it. And then there's a variety of distros or distributions or flavors. So you can find something you want. And if you get really technical with it, you can even make your own distribution. I've seen things like Hannah Montana Linux and other ones. Yeah. Hot Dog Linux, yes. Wait, which one? No. Among OS is what they were saying. I'll type it in chat so you get it. I hate it. Okay. The cons though. It's not as user friendly. There is a graphical user interface, but most of the stuff is kind of terminal based. So there is a bit of a learning curve to it, but once you get used to Linux, you will either love it or you will hate it. But a lot of people end up loving it after understanding it. There is software compatibility and hardware compatibility issues. So like I said, most devices that you buy from like Micro Center, Best Buy, Target, Walmart, they're made to be plug and play for Windows. So you plug it in, boom, works instantly. Not really for Linux because they are different operating systems, and operating systems make your hardware and software work together. So if a device is made for Windows, there could be some Linux compatibility issues along with software. Sorry, someone. A lot of people say that the only reason that Linux hasn't just taken off yet is because Steam doesn't work on Linux as well, and a lot of people like to play video games. So yeah, that's just some of the compatibility issues. Also, the lack of technical support. If I have a Windows problem, I just Google the Windows problem, and there's like 10 different articles like helping me out. If I have a Linux problem, it's a little bit more niche or unique sometimes. So there is a lack of official technical support. So you kind of have to figure things out yourself. But yeah, that's just pros and cons. Okay. That being said, is there any questions before I actually have you guys create your first VM? No? Cool. Okay, cool. Give me a minute to switch my screens. I'm going to be doing this on my laptop. 1 second. Jacob, do I have permission to share on Bryant? Okay, cool. Wait, I'm actually not ready to share that screen yet. Also, I'm switching to my laptop. Still message me on Presenter though, if you do have a chat question, because Presenter is still like full screen on my side. I'll just share screen 1. Close these slides. Okay, cool. Everyone can see my screen, and hopefully you can still hear me. Let me make sure my mic is not muted. Cool. Just make sure chat in Zoom, just someone say yes if you can see my screen and hear me still. Sweet. Okay, cool. So this is VirtualBox. I have VirtualBox installed. I opened it already. This is the first thing I see. So in this case, I'm going to click new. So we're creating a new virtual machine. So click new. You would click add if you were, wait, yeah. Oh, that's crazy. There we go. Let me move this Zoom box. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So this is my VirtualBox. Like I said, new to create a new virtual machine. Add if you want to add one like that you imported from somewhere else or you have the file. I'm going to click new. If you want to do expert mode, it might be a little easier if you already know what you're doing. But in this case, I'm just going to keep it for the basic mode. So go ahead and name your, what you want to call your VM, your guest OS. I'm just going to do workshop. I probably shouldn't put a face. You'll see it's going to be saved to default your C drive, your user, and then VirtualBox VMs. So it creates a folder for you. So in case you have trouble finding this afterwards, take note of where it saves. There's been countless times where I've lost VMs and I don't know why my computer is out of storage. And then I find 200 gigabytes worth of VMs in some random folder. So in this type, we're doing Linux and then version. So Kali doesn't actually have an actual version here. So I'm just going to do other 64-bit. And the reason I'm doing 64-bit is I downloaded the 64-bit one. If for whatever reason you're using a 34, you need a 32-bit one, go ahead and do that. But I'm assuming for everyone, it should be Linux, other Linux 64-bit. I'll keep it here for a few seconds before I move on. Like I said, if you already know how or have done this, this is just mainly to get everyone else up to speed because next workshops, we're more than likely going to go straight into like hands-on activities. Yes. Oh, did you install it? Yeah. So you're still installing VirtualBox. Yeah, so it wasn't just enough to download VirtualBox, you also have to install it. Just this is a heads up. If you didn't do it, don't worry, it's a quick installation. You'll be able to catch up. All right, so I went ahead and named it, put Linux, and I put other 64-bit. Next is memory size. This is probably the most important one, to be honest, because by default it wants to give you half a meg. Don't do half a gig because half a gig you'll run into some problems. I have 16 gigabytes on my laptop, so I'm just gonna give it 4 gigs. 4,000 megabytes is 4 gigs. It is new. If you're in the first thing, I did new. So always make sure. There was a case where I was trying to open a VM given to me for a challenge, and by default, it wanted to give me 4 megabytes for a 200 gigabyte Windows VM. I was sitting there for 20 minutes wondering why I kept crashing. Then I realized it wasn't 4 gigabytes, it was 4 megabytes. So yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and do new, or sorry, next now. So next we're here, it's create a new virtual hard disk now. I'm gonna do that. Essentially it's just, do you want to create a new VM? Just go ahead and do this. If you wanted to use an existing one, you can use an existing one, but I'm gonna do create new virtual hard disk now. Once we create this, it's gonna ask for the ISO. So that's the way I do it. I create, then I add an ISO. Also as a heads up, I should have mentioned this earlier. Typically, Linux VMs require about 10 gigs of storage. And then Windows probably about 20. I'll go more into that in this next one. So I'm going to click create. And it's going to ask me about hard disk file type. In this case, you're totally fine just doing VDI for Virtualbox disk image. What this means is that there's 3 different types of VM files. VDI is for Virtualbox. It's Virtualbox's like nice one. VHD is Microsoft's. To be honest, I work with VMs a lot. I've never had to use VHD. But VMDK is very important because I use VMDK almost exclusively at work because I had to deal with servers, and those servers go into vSphere, which you will eventually learn about. But yeah, VDI or VMDK are the 2 that you want to do. If your device is only, or if your VM is only going to stay on your laptop and only going to use VirtualBox, just keep it VDI. You'll only use VMDK on VirtualBox if you think that you're going to send it to someone using VMware. But even then, just tell that person to buy a VMware key, and then tell that person to buy a VMware key and convert the file themselves. Or Google that one website. Okay, this is pretty important too. I know everyone doesn't have tons of storage on their laptops. Dynamically allocated means that the more you do on your VM, the bigger it's going to get. That can be pretty bad, especially if you just already low on storage. So do fixed size. But like I said, you can't fix it to like 5 gigs. I typically do 10 to 15 for Ubuntu, about 10 for Ubuntu, or 10 for Linux, and then at least 20 for Windows. The size you want to allocate depends on what you plan to do with it. If it's just a test box for like a day or 2, 10 to 20 is fine, and then delete it when you're done. If you're actually like installing an insane amount of programs and servers and doing server stuff with it, then do a bigger fixed size. You can always change the fixed size later too. So you don't have to like do 100 because you think you might use it later. You can always adjust it later. I'm going to click next. My fixed size, I'm gonna give it 20 or just 10. The slider is really annoying because it'll jump from like 20 to like 30. Yeah. You don't have to do 20. I'm just doing it because I'm on a fresh laptop. Go ahead and do 10. I don't like typing. Anyone need me to go back, by the way? I'm trying to go slow, but yeah. Cool. Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and click create. It's creating this. It'll take a few seconds or a minute, depending on your hardware. I'll give everyone like 30 seconds. If you already know how to do this and you are bored, I encourage you to do Bandit. It's in the workshop. It should have been added to the workshop list, but yeah. If you're bored and think about not coming to next week's workshop, come to next week's workshop. Next week's workshop and the rest are very hands-on, so they're more fun. Oh, which Kali links should you download? I'll post it in the chat. But I did the bare bones. Oh yeah, there you go. So the Kali links I put in chat, or that Felipe put in chat for me, is the bare metal one, meaning it's smaller, so it won't take too long to download, and it's just what you need. It's just the bare bones Kali. I didn't want everyone to download like a 9 GB ISO. Once you click the Kali bare metal, it'll be like 64-bit installer. I'm gonna assume that you're using a 64-bit device, so just click the 64-bit one, and yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go next. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. Go ahead and just click start. So highlight your VM and just click start, or you can right click and press start. There's so many ways to do this that they all blur together. I'll do right click and start. There's normal start, headless start, and detachable start. Just do normal start. So right click your VM, normal start, and then click. This might be also where you realize that your virtualization is also turned off because you will get a VTX error. We can worry about that later. So I'm at this screen where it wants my startup disk. So remember I talked about ISO is pretty much just a disk in layman's terms. I'm gonna actually bring up my ISO. So if you download your ISO, it's probably in your downloads folder or wherever you have your things download to. So I'm gonna click the virtual disk drive. Oh, whoops. Add. And I need to find it. Here we go. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong screen. So what you hear, just go ahead and click open. I'll do it one more time just in case you need to see it. You see here, it's empty. Just click the folder button, click add, and then find the VM or the ISO. I have two because I used to do Ubuntu. But yeah. Once you're there, go ahead and click choose. I'll give you guys a few seconds. I think everyone's in it though. All right, I'm going to click start. If you need me to go back, let me know and I'll just do the entire process again. I can just make another VM, but go ahead and click start. And now you get the fun of doing the first boot up of Kali. So I'm actually full screen this. It's small. Okay, great. I'm gonna do graphical install because I actually do want to see the graphics. So click enter. I will make this full screen when I can. There. So if you ever had to do a Windows installation, it's pretty much the same thing. So now we're doing Kali. This should be a lot faster though, and it's not going to ask for personal information like email and things like that. So I'm just going to enter for English, enter for United States. I speak American English, so I'm going to click enter. And we're going through the process. Feel free to ask questions because this will be a couple minutes. Real quick, just as a side thing, as this loads, because eventually you guys probably will do Windows VM creations. When you create a Windows VM, it asks a lot of intrusive stuff like, hey, you need an Outlook account to access this. The way to bypass that is just to not have internet. So do that. Later on, I'll show you guys how to disconnect your VM from the internet so that when you create a Windows VM, it won't ask for that. Yeah, I think one time I was installing Windows on a brand new laptop and I couldn't disconnect from the Wi-Fi. So I had to like walk away from my workplace like half a mile away just to disconnect. It was fun. Okay, it wants the host name of your network. So this means host name of the system. The default creds are just Kali. I'm gonna leave it named as Kali because I'm not gonna forget Kali. I probably will forget my creds to be honest. So once you're at this screen, just go ahead and click continue. If you're not at this screen, let me know and I can wait like a minute or two. But I'm just gonna go ahead. It's asking if I have a domain name. I'm just put Kali for it again. I'll just do workshop. This shouldn't matter to be honest. It just if you're planning to do some network connectivity with this, that's what it is. But I'm just doing workshop just to move on. Okay. So now it's asking for our default user, aka who we are. I'm just gonna do Bryant. That's my name. It's nice that you can screenshot it in case you forget, because that's definitely happened before where I created the VM, forgot my user and password instantly, and had to redo it. Also, if you need help, feel free to ask questions in chat. We have people in person going around helping people, so don't feel embarrassed. Someone wants my password. I'm also doing Bryant. Know your password, because, or to be honest, for now, even though it's not the most secure thing, don't make your password super complex right now, because we will be typing in our password pretty frequently. And it'll be annoying to type. I'm just doing something simple. How do I resolve kernel panic when installing? You know what, kernel? How do I resolve kernel panic? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, we're having a guy over there who had the same problem. We're just trying to reinstall,
Okay.
like creating the VM again, seeing if that changes anything.
Okay.
We're gonna keep trying different things.
If you run into kernel panic, that is my first time seeing that, as well as our Linux people. So if you're running into kernel panic, what you should do is just close that VM and then recreate the VM. So remember where we did new to create our VM initially? Do that. Try that. If it works, we'll let you know. If it does work for you, let us know as well. If not, we'll try our next step. We are currently panicking because of kernel panic. All right, I'm going to do my time zone, continue on. It's just basic setup stuff. Also, this is asking if you want to partition your disks. So if you don't know what disk partition is, you can have your hard drive, your disk or SSD, and you can have the storage split. So like 10 will be for Kali, 10 will be for something else. In this case, Kali is our VM. This doesn't matter. It's because our Kali thinks that we're using Kali doesn't know it's a VM essentially. So just asking us if you want to partition. Just don't partition. Just use the entire disk. It's not using the entire disk of your actual computer. It's using the entire disk of the storage that you allocated for it. So in my case, it was only 20 gigabytes. You're good. Do SCSI, SCSI. I call that SCSI. You'll never really have to worry about SCSI and other stuff as you do different VMs. It only matters if you're uploading things to vSphere, which if you don't know what vSphere is, don't worry about it. And then all files in one partition. Essentially, you're just clicking continue. This page is just asking if I want to confirm everything. Just go ahead and click yes. Essentially, I didn't change anything this whole time, besides maybe language and time zone. But yeah. Just to make sure. I'm using SCSI because that was the only one available to me. We're doing one partition. Go ahead and click next. Once this is done, you're pretty much done with your Kali installation. And then we'll be going over some basic Linux commands to get you comfortable with it. Also, I need to look something up. Oh, question? Yeah. Oh, it doesn't work. I'll go to you right now. Oh, it's asking for software installation. I'm just going to click continue. I didn't get on my VM. Okay, I can't mute myself, so if you hear chatter in the background, I'm sorry. So yeah, right now, just give it time as everyone's Kali thing is booting up. It's gonna take a few minutes. I'm gonna be helping people in person. If you have people or questions in chat, just ask in chat, and there's people like Jacob and Felipe that can help you. All right, I'm gonna mute myself again. Yeah.
This is what's on the screens,
Yeah.
right? Can we show VirtualBox, like VirtualBox the loader? Is there a way to exit full screen? Go down here. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully everybody on Zoom and in person can see. Was it the CPU thing?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're encountering the thing that, I mean, I can do it. Excuse me, can I get everybody's attention, please? If you're having the problem where you're trying to install and it says that you are having the kernel parent panic error and it just dies, what you have to do is you gotta go to the VirtualBox manager here, right? You're gonna go to your VM, you're gonna click on settings, right? You're going to go to system, you're gonna go to processor, and you're gonna set it to 2, right? If it's set to 1, you gotta set it to 2. And then when you boot the virtual machine back up, it should work. The basic reason for that is that the operating system that's trying to load in this case, Kali, 1 CPU is not enough for it. It's just using all the resources and then dying. So, you know, it can't install properly. If you give it 2, that should be enough resources for it to work. In this case, Bryant's laptop is just like a super beast and it only needs 1 because that 1 is good enough. But for other systems, that may not be the case. If you need help, just raise your hand and we'll come around to you.
Oh, if you're here, by the way, and you're at my screen where it says, like, choose the next thing, just do install the Grub bootloader, just the basic stuff. It'll come with the applications that you need. I'm also going to mute again because we're helping people in the background, but yeah. Okay. People on Zoom, just as a like second of reference, is everyone like about where I'm at? Like, do they have any trouble? If you had trouble, let me know so I can just gauge like if you guys are good or not. So I think most people in person are good now. So yeah. All good, just loading. Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you for being patient, by the way. I know it can be a little hard because you're on Zoom, but essentially, today's workshop, like I said, is make sure everyone knows how to use virtualization. because our next few workshops will probably just straight jump into them pretty soon. So yeah. If you were, intermediate, I guess, and you already know how to do all this stuff, don't worry. Next week's workshops are actually going to be pretty interesting and fun. All right. I'm assuming everyone is kind of good now. Let me ask in person real quick. Sorry, I'm on mute. Okay, in person still having trouble. Hopefully if you remember Gabe's spiel about changing your processors to 2. If not, I can go through that again. If you're barely on the Kali install page, that's fine. I will wait here. Like I said, today's workshop is hardware based, so it is pretty unpredictable because everyone's laptop has different hardwares. Oh, okay. That makes sense on the mount option. Okay. I'll probably stay till like 8 or longer. We probably will skip the Linux review, to be honest, but that's fine because nothing I was going to go over today isn't going to be covered in the Linux workshop in 2 weeks. Do we need the VirtualBox extension pack? Yes. All right. So someone asked about VirtualBox extension pack. Oh, this is the everyone person too. So someone asked about VirtualBox extension pack. You do want that if it gives you the option. Essentially, it makes your VM more compatible with your host. So if you don't have that, let's say you want to copy something from your VM, from your host to your VM, it wouldn't work. With the extension pack, it does work. You can just drag and drop files. So the extension pack is just quality of life, and it's very helpful. If you're using VMware, it would be called VMware Tools. So if you're using VMware, if it asks you to install VMware Tools, do it. It's so nice to just drag and drop files from host to guest. The amount of times where I could not copy and paste something from VM to the host or host to guest and vice versa, like it's always like the long commands. So having it on is so nice. Okay, I'm gonna go help people in person. If you have questions, ask in chat. Oh, so real quick, partitioning essentially, you're splitting your drive into multiple pieces. There's no reason to partition a VM, to be honest. The reason you want to partition a hard drive or SSD, like your actual hard drive or SSD, the reason you want to partition that is like if you want to dual boot. Some people like to run Windows and Linux on one device. That's called dual booting. You partition your drive so that one section has like allocated storage for Windows, one section has allocated storage for Linux. Or some people are just very weird and organized about their drive organization. So you can have a partition and only run one operating system, and it pretends it's two drives even though it's really one. There's various reasons to do it. The main one is dual booting, but like I said earlier, there's kind of no reason to partition a VM. If you do know a reason, feel free to tell me in chat. But yeah. Also, I guess if you are caught up, let me know so that way I can adjust. I think most people in person are catching up because we have people running around helping them individually. If you guys are caught up or think you're caught up, let me know. We probably are going to skip the Linux portion of today because of the time we spent doing this. But like I said earlier, you're not going to miss out on stuff because what we would have taught today, we'll just do on the workshop 2 weeks ago. It was going to be covered in the workshop 2 weeks ago anyways. It would have just been like, just extra reinforcement. All right, I'm gonna mute again. Let's say you are where I'm at. For enter device manually, you just choose the device we have, so the device we gave it, and then you just click continue. Okay, so hi people in person and online. Everyone's in various parts of it, so like I said, we will be skipping. Okay, there we go. I'm on the right mic now. Hi, chat and people in person. We'll be finishing up. If you can hear people in the background, let me know and I'll tell them to shut up. But anyways, like I said, we are going to skip the Linux portion today because people are on various parts of the Kali installation because of hardware issues and different types of hardware. But I'm going to talk about networking in a VM and more about it. So give me 1 second. Guys, I'm going to start talking again. So yeah.
Other thing?
Yeah.
Should reiterate that like troubleshooting, encountering, failing, and that's also
Okay. So troubleshooting and what? Oh yeah.
troubleshooting hardware issues.
Oh yeah.
Like basically falling it back up again. That's a really fun part, right? Nothing works the first time.
Right. Okay. So real quick, if you feel down because your installation is longer than you thought or you're having trouble, don't feel down because eventually you're going to run into this again. And it's not going to be your fault. It's because hardware is hardware. There's different types of CPUs, different types of RAMs, different types of compatibilities. For domain name, just put whatever you want, by the way. But yeah, you will run into hardware issues. Once you start playing with servers, trying to set up a server, you will run into hardware issues again. Cybersecurity is trial and error. Honestly, the best way to learn is just jump into it and fix solutions. Because I could have just told you what to do, and then it wouldn't have worked anyways because we have all these compatibility issues. So troubleshooting is just huge in cybersecurity. So don't feel down if you're having trouble right now. Also, I'm gonna talk a little about networking. Because earlier I did mention, I'm gonna reiterate what I said again to in person, but I mentioned that I have used malware in controlled work environments. Be careful. Just because you have a VM doesn't mean that you can just start installing every type of malware and ransomware on your device. Because sometimes you can mess up. And so I'm just want to reiterate, be careful if you are using malware or ransomware. I'm gonna talk about networking because your VMs can actually have different types of networking. So your VM can have your IP address, or it can have a IP address in your network, but a different thing. So if you don't know what an IP address is, it's just the address your computer uses to get to the internet. I'm gonna actually do it on my VM real quick if I can. Let me zoom down. Oh, whoops. Virtualbox. And for this, you don't have to follow along. You can just watch. If I do settings on my VM and do network, you'll see that there's different types of attached types. Also, you guys should pay attention to this too, because this is where you may want to not get yourself in trouble with networking. So there's different types of network types in a VM. So what I did was I just clicked settings and network, and I control the type of network my VM has. Your VM will have internet because it's coming from your host computer. There's different ways to do it though. The main two are Nat and Bridge mode. So Nat will mask your network activity as it came from your host. So if you have Nat, you are using your host IP address. So yeah, that's that. Then there's Bridge mode. So if you do Bridge mode, it replicates another node on your network. So essentially that just means that if you use Bridge, your VM gets its own IP address. So if you ever wanted to mess with networking stuff on VMs, know the difference between Nat and Bridged. There are many more. I will encourage you to look those up yourself, to be honest, but Nat and Bridged are the main two. So like I said, Nat, it uses your host address. Bridge, you get your own. Virtualbox what?
Like network adapters. And then I would need to know. And then scroll until you find the one you're ready to talk about. Or the table.
So I'm looking for a table.
Very bottom, I think.
Just giving you the visual. Here it is. The minus means that they can't connect to each other, and the plus means that they can. So if you have NAT, meaning that you have your host IP address, you can't do VM to VM.
Brian is speaking.
Cool. So I brought up a chart to make the different types of network compatibilities easier to visualize. Minus means that you don't have that type of connection. Plus means that you do. So there's NAT network, bridge, eternal only, host only. And then on the chart up here, on the rows, it's you trying to talk to another device. So if you're trying to talk from a VM to VM, not attached and NAT, they won't be able to talk to each other. You cannot send data from VM to VM. If you have NAT network, then you can talk from VM to VM. Same with bridge, eternal, and host only. The reason this matters is because you can run, if you have the hardware for it, multiple VMs at once, and you can make them talk to each other. One small thing you can, if you have the hardware to run two Linux VMs, is you can make them talk to each other and ping each other. If you don't know what that is, it's a fun project for you to do, and it's pretty simple. Talking more about it is VM to host and things like that. Also, Gabe has an idea.
Okay, so for all of you here in person, and if you're on Zoom, then just maybe send a message in the chat. But just by raising, your hand and showing me with your fingers about how important do you think like virtualization VMs are to cybersecurity? Just raise your hand with a rough estimate. I'm seeing some 5s, 4s. All right. So I'm seeing a pretty high rating, right? So most of you are, saying that virtualization VMs are pretty important to cybersecurity. Could anyone give me a reason why? Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a very good use case, basically using it as a sandbox environment for testing software and stuff like that. Does someone else have another idea as well? Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to basically rely on just one environment, right? You want to have backups that you can have with multiple virtual machines. Does someone want to have like a third and final idea as well? Yeah, right here. Absolutely. Basically what was said, for if you couldn't hear on Zoom, basically running multiple virtual machines so you can maximize the resources of your computer, maximize what's being used. These are all really great use cases. But I think another thing that is also really, really cool and really important about using virtual machines and all that stuff is the fact that at the end of the day, you can make as many as you want, you can destroy as many as you want, and you never have to change your hardware. You never pay a dime, right? So for example, here on campus at Cal Poly Pomona, we have a data center. It has some really, really, beefy hardware. It has like tons of RAM, tons of storage, tons of CPUs and all that stuff. And over the summer, we were having a boot camp for the cybersecurity teams here on campus for Ccdc and CPTC, what we mentioned earlier. And over the course of the summer, we went through like over 1,000 virtual machines, right? We didn't have to spend $1 on any of it, okay? That's at the end of the day, what I think is probably the biggest takeaway for why virtualization is important as an absolute need to know for cybersecurity, is that you can make as many environments as you want, as often as you want, and you basically can just keep reusing the same hardware for as many use cases as you can think of, right? Everything that everyone said was correct, but this is just kind of like the overall encapsulating theme, right? Cybersecurity is very, very expensive. That's why so many companies are paying a lot of people to do it properly. That's why for those of you here today who are trying to, get your start in cybersecurity, that's why they're going to be paying you a ton of money, is because you're going to be doing it right. It all starts here with virtualization. Pretty much any cybersecurity company you go to will be using virtualization every single day. What Bryant was just explaining here with different kinds of networking, it's going to be pretty much used every single day if you're doing cybersecurity. But don't worry if it's not clicking just yet, right? This stuff takes a while to learn. I've been doing cybersecurity for a while now, and I still pull up this website and I look at this and just as a refresher, right? No matter how good you get, you're always going to have to look at your notes. So don't worry if not if everything's not clicking just yet. I did want to just leave off before I return things back to Bryant with, thank you guys for coming to our first workshop. Thank you guys for asking questions. Thank you for answering our questions. Everything that you're doing here today is going to be the foundation of what you're doing tomorrow and what you're going to be doing in the future. So without further ado, I'll give it back to Bryant. Yeah.
Any left? Okay, cool. So thank you, Gabe. But yeah, just so you know, just to reiterate, if you're having trouble right now, don't feel bad. Configuring hardware and dealing with hardware problems is just a basic part of cybersecurity. Today it was kind of an essential day because we want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable starting and booting VMs, because we will be using them throughout the year for workshops, for your classes. If you haven't taken the CIS classes, you will have to do VMs as well. And even just for personal projects, they're essential. At 7:55 right now, so I know we do only have 5 minutes. I'm just gonna take this last 5 minutes to see where people are at with installations, if they're still having trouble, to ask questions. And if you have any questions about this today or next week's workshops or anything that we'll do in the future, please go ahead and ask, and I'll ask to the best of my ability about the workshops, because I kind of am in charge of them. So yeah. This is open to chat too. No? Cool. It's just, yes. YouTube. Yeah. If you the question was, if you weren't able to get it up and running, where could you look online? And honestly, the great question is just YouTube. YouTube and Google help a lot, especially later on. We'll be working with a lot of well, not us, but you will be working with niche software because someone said, hey, try this program, or hey, do hacking of this program. And online resources like Google, YouTube, they will help a lot. That's how kind of there's a lot, so it depends. Like I said, not every channel has good videos everywhere, because yeah, one channel might have a good Kali, one might have a good Ubuntu. It's very broad. You don't really stick to just one resource. It's multiple. Maybe you find something you like and you keep using it, but yeah. Real quick. 1 second. Like I said, there's no course online that I fully suggest. Some websites or some people might be really good at helping out with 1 or 2 things, but then after that, they're not so great. So you kind of have to broaden the people you look for. Online research is a big skill in cybersecurity. We are going to be closing it off soon, so if you have questions, let me know. If you weren't able to get it off, use online resources to go on. Yeah. Huh? No. Tuesday? Yeah. Also, before everyone goes, Tuesday we will have our meeting from 12 to 1 in this building as well, in the business building. It'll also be virtual, so if you can't be in there virtually, join on Zoom. And we'll be covering networking, so an introduction to networking. And then our workshop on Friday, so next week, this same time, will also be an introduction to networking. And that will be a lot more hands-on, as we will all hopefully be able to use VMs by then.